Alert right now as the Republican National Convention kicks off today. There are more security concerns after the deadly shooting in Baton Rouge and last week's terror attack in France. Let's get to Blake Berman. He is live here as well in Cleveland with the very latest. Blake, good morning to you.
Hi there, Maria. Good morning to you as well. Miles worth of barricades are wrapped around the streets here in downtown Cleveland, as many of those streets are closed this morning as the United States Secret Service, the Cleveland Police Department, and agencies in between have pretty much taken over here in Northeast Ohio. More than 70 different agencies are coordinating this event. They've been working together, doing so for over a year. However, there was a bit of a political battle that broke out over the weekend as it relates to security, as the head of the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association, a man by the name of Steve Loomis, called into question the state's open carry gun laws. Loomis saying, and I'm quoting here, that he feels it makes it, quote, much more difficult to handle convention security. Loomis also adding that he said, quote, what we have now is completely irresponsible. The governor here in the state of Ohio, as you mentioned, is John Kasich. His office put out a statement as it relates to open carry, basically saying they feel that the governor's hands are tied on this one. A spokesperson saying, and I am quoting here, law enforcement is a noble, essential calling, and we all grieve that we've again seen attacks on officers. Only governors Ohio governors do not have the power to arbitrarily suspend federal and state constitutional rights or state laws as suggested. The police chief here, Calvin Williams, said that they are trying to get in line officers from other states. Keep in mind that there are law enforcement from not just throughout Ohio, but all across the country here, and they are trying to update those officers on the open carry laws so that they can keep everybody here safe.
But the officers are being briefed on our procedures. They're briefed on the state law that applies to open carry. Our commanders on the ground are going to make sure that anybody that open carries here in the city, that they have certain responsibilities that they have to maintain.
Maria Williams added over the weekend that it took some time to work out the kinks, but they feel they are there. His message was this. He said, it's game on, and we're ready for it. Maria?
All right, Blake, thanks so much. We are ready for it. Blake Berman with the latest there. I want to bring in Steve Rogers right now, a former New Jersey detective, an FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force member. Steve, good to see you.
Good morning.
Really interesting things that we're dealing with today. That open carry law that you just can't change. Yeah. He doesn't have the authority. Kasich?
Well, here's the situation. The lives of police officers are on the line. I believe the governor sent a message yesterday to every police officer. It was very chilling, and I've spoken to a lot of cops overnight. Fellas, you're on your own. We need leadership in this country. Now, I understand there's a process, and I know the governor's here, and he's going to help us walk through that. But
you're on your own.
I believe that. Well, he didn't say you're on your own. That was the way it was interpreted.
That's the way it sounded. Okay.
But the point is that there has to be a process to protect our police officers. I question when 2 or 3, 4, 5 people get into a crowd of 1,000, and the bad guy starts to fire, and then the good guy whose arm starts to fire. As a police officer, I have to make a decision in 3 seconds. Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? Who am I going to kill? We're putting police officers' lives on the line here. We need a process to protect them. And I know, Governor, I respect you. I know you're going to help us through this today.
Well, the fact is the governor can't just say this law is not a good one right now, so let's suspend it. He doesn't have that authority constitutionally. The only thing he can do is call the legislature into special session and pass an emergency clause that would give the governor the opportunity to temporarily suspend the open carry for certain national events or certain, you could define it any way you want to. Then he would have the authority to invoke it for a period of up to X days. But he can't just say, oh, we shouldn't be doing this, so let's not do it.
Well, at a minimum, he should be more visible. I mean, I think what Dagan said earlier is really dead on, and that is the governor should be here at the National Republican Convention. This is his state.
Yeah. And Maria, and Governor, I'm glad you put it into perspective, because that's all the police are asking, to be reasonable. Yeah. And the people, and look, I'm a Second Amendment guy. I believe in the right to bear arms. But it's very disheartening is the people who we support are saying, well, you want to take our rights away. We don't want to take anybody's rights away. We're just asking, be reasonable. Not everything is black and white in life.
I think that the leadership, whether it's the governor or anyone who is here, should call on people if they're here to protest and they're here peacefully, then don't bring your weapons. You can be a proponent of the Second Amendment, but say, make the police their jobs easier to do and not bring your weapons.
It's really
and not carry them in the open.
Not necessary to bring a weapon.
Right.
There are several thousand police officers here. I've never seen
Right.
police presence like this.
Yeah.
I said yesterday to somebody, I said, the toughest maximum security prison that we had in Arkansas that I was responsible for, it was easier to get out of it than it would be to get into this parameter here in Cleveland. It is really extraordinarily.
And it's also what you don't see, quite frankly,
Yeah,
in
exactly.
terms of the preparation and the protection that's in place.
But I mean, what's happening now? Does this rise in police attacks, this divisions that we're seeing across the country, does that make us even more vulnerable to foreign attacks? We're worried about fighting with each other.
Well, I can tell you that was one thing we worried about when I worked at the Joint Terrorism Task Force. There's a distraction going now in this country. We're fighting each other, and I know it sounds like a broken record. I blame the gentleman who lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It happened after Ferguson. The narrative was always the police were the bad guys. Ferguson, Baltimore, all the incidents around the country, before they were fully vetted and investigated, the president came out and made a very, very bad conclusion that it was the police. And the governor of Minnesota, right after the incident out there, to come out and to say it was a racial problem, hurt the police. It damaged police community relations.
Meanwhile, really ill-timed, the president did an op-ed in the Journal today. Merrick Garland deserves a vote for democracy's sake. You would think that the president right now is focused on what's happening with police. He wrote the op-ed about the Supreme Court justice.
We're the good guys. The police are the good guys, and the people in the minority community are good people. They want to work with us. The problem we're facing is leadership. There's not enough men like you, Governor, who stand up and tell the truth and to tell it like it is. And we need more people like you. I really believe that.
Well, I do wish that the governor would come to Cleveland. I think he needs to be here. I think his presence to encourage the officers who are here is important. I mean, it would be typical that a Democratic governor would come to a political convention in his or her own state.
Sure.
But when it's your own party and you were one of the candidates, I just find that it's just inexplicable to me that you would say, no, I'm going to skip it.
It's in bad taste.
Yeah.
And to your point about foreign terrorist groups looking, they're watching. They're watching everything we do, and they're waiting for the right time to strike. And I got to tell you, it's been great here. I think we're very safe here, and they did a great job here. So if anybody has any ideas of doing anything here, they're going to have a hard time.
With the war on police, though, don't we worry, and we should worry about the safety of the rest of the country, because when you demonize cops, this is what happens to them, and the entire fabric of the nation falls apart.
Absolutely, and we're seeing a breakdown in the rule of law.
Yeah. And to that point, we have to be vigilant all across the country. Everybody's eyes are here. Well, the cops, even not here, have to be real careful.
All right, we will leave it there. Steve Rogers, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And